Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to a brand new mod spotlight on a highly anticipated mod. Those of you who've been following along with some of the updates coming out of the 1.10 modding environment are excited for Super Circuit Maker. That's right, it's finally time to do it. Emma Dornis, the author, has reached out to me and said, Dyer, we're ready. So, Super Circuit Maker is a mod that allows you to build custom redstone circuits. Literally, you can make anything with a custom redstone circuit that you could do in the real world, but do it really, really small. And it's super. It's a circuit maker. It's fun. And we're going to get started right away talking about all the features. There's a lot you can do with this mod. I mean, there's a real lot you can do with this mod. Fans of vanilla redstone, fans of Project Red, fans of Red Power, fans of anything redstone related will probably have a lot of fun building their own custom circuits. So let's get started. So to get started with the mod, you're going to want to make yourself a screwdriver. That's step one. Step two will get yourself some redstone circuits. It's 12 of them for 6 stone slabs. Pretty easy. And then your final step is to get some tiny piles of redstone dust. You get 9 of them per redstone, and you can also convert it back if you wish. Simply place your redstone circuit on the ground. Ta-da! You've got your first circuit. You'll notice as you hold the redstone in your hand, you've got the ability to place these little tiny dots of redstone all along the circuit here. So if we wanted to create a very basic circuit, we could do so like this. That's all there is to it. Now, in order to interact with redstone in the world, you're going to have to adjust whether you're accepting a redstone signal from one side or if you're outputting a redstone signal from a side. So let's take a look. Let's say that we wanted to accept a redstone signal from this side and output it to this side. It's really quite simple. Shift right click on the edge there, and you'll notice this flat line appears. That means we're accepting the redstone signal and transmitting it onto the wire that's connected here. If we right click on this side, you'll see it connects to the outer edge, as opposed to that where it's not connected to the outer edge, and you'll see that that means that it's going to output the redstone signal. We can demonstrate this like so. Nice. Power 14 going in, power 14 coming out. That is pretty simple. The exception points don't have to be perfectly in the center of the block. You can have the exception point be right here, so it can accept the redstone signal, and it'll work just the same. You simply left click anywhere on the block with anything in your hand, be it a sword or another piece of redstone, to pick items up. And right click obviously is to place them. You can also break the entire circuit and it'll pick itself up in your inventory, and when you place it back down, it exists exactly the way it was. You can also right click with the screwdriver to rotate it so that if you want to go the opposite direction, it works just fine. Sweet. And finally, if you're super fancy, you can craft yourself a magnificent magnifying monocle. Simply place that and then hit Z to zoom in, and you've got a much more up close and personal way of looking at your circuits. This is a great way to see what's going on. Press Z again, and you're out. Most of the rest of the spotlight will probably be covered in zoom in mode, but we'll obviously be going in and out as we need to. A couple other basic features that you can do. If you want, you can go ahead and right click on 2 wires to prevent them from connecting. Super useful. Right click again to allow them to reconnect. You can also shift right click to adjust the input or outputness of it. Cool. One of the things you might have noticed is that the wire on the board doesn't exactly light up all by itself. That's something that's easy to solve though. Simply replace what you've got on there with tiny piles of glowing redstone. Simply a tiny pile of glowstone, which is made 4 per glowstone dust. And this stuff works pretty well. Simply place it on the board, and you'll notice that it has a little bit of a darkened texture to it. And when we activate our redstone signal, it lights up. This is a really nice way to debug your circuits, but keep in mind that if you have a really complex circuit with a lot of timings on it, there's going to be a lot of rendering on your screen. If you want to hide the rendering though, you can simply right click on this with a shift right click, and you'll notice that it hides all the rendering. Now there's no longer any rendering going on. The circuit still exists as it did before, so if we switch this to an output, place a piece of dust there, you'll see everything's still working. Shift right click to hide it. Still works, it just hides the rendering. This just saves on your frame rate a little bit if you have a lot of circuits in the area or if you have a slower computer. To be honest, I've not noticed much by way of frame rate impact from these circuits, but it's still a nice feature. So far, you're probably saying to yourself, Direwolf, this mod is very basic and simple. Why are you making such a long spotlight about it? We haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do. One of the things you can do in addition to this is place redstone torches on there. Just like in the world of Minecraft, redstone torches work as NOT gates. So I'm going to go ahead and run some glowing redstone here, and we're going to run it out to this side, okay? Now, just like we do with the external connections, anything internal that we want to read or write redstone to, we have to shift right click. Notice when I do that all of a sudden, this piece of glowing redstone is activated. That means it's getting its redstone signal from the redstone torch adjacent to it. Like this, it would be giving a redstone signal to it. In vanilla Minecraft, this works a little differently. In vanilla Minecraft, you can place a torch on a block, and any redstone signal going into that block, either a redstone signal on this side or a redstone signal here, can affect the torch. But there's no way to make this signal affect the torch. The torch can only affect this redstone dust. Not so a super circuit maker. So let's make a very basic NOT gate by saying this side we can read from. And now we've got a very basic NOT gate. Pretty fancy. Now if we didn't want this connection to occur, just right click here. And now that redstone dust is no longer connected to the torch. Right click again, and it is connected. Fancy. And as a reminder, if you want to connect to the dust in the world, don't forget to right click over here. Much better. You can connect your redstone to any side of the block that you want. So in this case, the redstone torch, we can have this reading from it, and this reading from it, and this reading from it, and then we can run our redstone to all three sides here. And this works as a 3-output NOT gate. And if we remove one of the lines, it works as a 2-output NOT gate. Pretty cool. You can also throw vanilla levers on here, but they work a little differently. When you place down the lever, it's going to automatically rotate itself based on the direction you're facing, and the side that the lever is facing will be receiving the redstone signal. These sides here, you can send the redstone signal in, and these sides on these two sides here, you send the redstone signal out. Redstone signal going into it will cause it to flip itself. So thus far, we've seen some very basic things that you can pretty much do with vanilla redstone. However, there's more complex stuff right around the corner. Let's take a look at some of the custom modules that are added to the mod to make your life a little bit easier when working with these custom redstone circuits. Those include the quartz resonator, the ender pulsar, and the miniature lamp. So thus far, we've seen a few fancy things that we can do with Super Circuit Maker. We can make circuits that have tiny piles of redstone, you can have redstone torches and levers. We've seen the basics, but let's get more complex. Let's look at some of the things that are added to the mod that make building complex circuits all the better. And the first thing we're going to look at is the quartz resonator. So the quartz resonator you can basically think of as pretty much a repeater, but it's slightly different from the vanilla repeater that you know. So I'm going to connect it up so that we are getting our redstone signal from this side, feeding it into the quartz resonator, and then getting a signal out of the quartz resonator and feeding it out to this side. Let's flip the lever and see what happens. 1 second or 20 ticks later, it sent a redstone signal through. Let's watch that again. Cool. Now we can bump this up to 60 ticks if we want, and now it'll be a 3-second delay. Now the difference here between this and the way that vanilla repeaters work is vanilla repeaters tend to extend the redstone signal as well as delay it. This one will extend and delay it based on the duration that the lever was left on. So in this case, we could leave it on for a second or two and then turn it off, and then this will be on for a second or two and then turn off. But if we flip it real quick, it will be real quick. A demonstration of what I was talking about is shown here. Notice that with the 1 tick delay, it's pretty quick. But if we bump this up to 4 ticks, it stays on for a little longer than the redstone signal initially going into it was given. This allows for much more complexity. Okay, and it's real easy. You can go ahead and open up the UI here and adjust it by ticks. And if you hold Shift notice you can adjust it by seconds. So if you want to bump it up by 20 seconds, that's easy. And when you let go of shift, you'll see that's automatically converted to the 460 ticks that we had. So if we bump this down to 20 seconds, it should be 400 ticks. Pretty cool, right? The next block I want to show you is the miniature lamp. This is a pretty nifty block. Cool. Now, you can't read redstone from it. All you can do is write to it. So shift right clicking here does not give you the option to get redstone signal out of it. All it does is light up when it's receiving a redstone signal. This is really useful if you're not using the tiny pile of glowing redstone, but instead using the regular redstone. Because if you want to debug your stuff here a little bit, and you're not 100% sure if you've done everything right, you can do that, and you'll know whether or not the line is lighting up. Pretty cool. Finally, we've got the Ender Pulsar, which is essentially a little timer, and it's super useful. Let's go ahead and run some wiring to it again. You'll notice that with it connected like this, and shift right clicking here, it's going to pulse every 20 ticks or 1 second. You can also, of course, bump this up, and now it'll pulse every 100 ticks or every 5 seconds. Cool. If I bump this down to 20 ticks again, very nice. And if it's receiving a redstone signal, it'll stop the pulsing. When the redstone signal is removed, the 20 tick counter resumes, and it's every 20 ticks again. So if this, for example, were set to 5 seconds, and we gave it a redstone signal before that 5-second mark hit, it resets the timer and it waits another 5 seconds before pulsing. If it gets a redstone signal again before that, it resets the timer and waits another 5 seconds before pulsing. Now at the 5-second mark, it's allowed to pulse. Finally, I'd like to show you something really cool. You're not restricted to only one circuit board. You can combine them. Awesome. So how does this work? It's really pretty easy. Let's say I wanted to input a signal here and I wanted to output it up here. No problem, right? We connect there and we connect there. Now all we need to do is run our wiring, and you can run it anywhere. Awesome. Maybe I'd like to have a redstone torch in the middle. And then this can be a NOT gate. Pretty cool, right? Ta-da! It should be noted, by the way, that when you do this, these guys are not all linked together for breaking. So when you pick one up, you're going to get just that one tile in your inventory, and you have to place all 4 tiles back down in the same rotational pattern that you had before. So before we get any more complex, let's demonstrate some basic circuits that you can build with this thing. For example, what if we wanted to make a 2-input AND gate? Basically, we want to make it so that the levers on both sides of this block need to be activated in order for a redstone signal to come out of it. Well, we can build this in the real world. So let's demonstrate this in the Minecraft world. An AND gate is made like so. Both this lever and this lever need to be on for the redstone signal to come out. If either one of them are off, or if both of them are off, there's no redstone signal on the output. Now let's recreate this in Super Circuit Maker. All we need to do is run some redstone into 2 torches, just like we had in the regular world. We want to read from both these sides so that we can get whether or not a redstone signal is coming in. That's going to feed into this torch, which is going to read both of these guys, and then output to here. But don't forget that we need an extra NOT gate in the middle to reverse it. We could even have this NOT gate, just to be super close and compact, right here. Just to demonstrate how compact you can make these Super Circuit Maker circuits. Cool, right? So now this one needs to be on, and this one needs to be on in order to output a redstone signal on the front. Cool, right? Another personal favorite of mine is the RS NOR latch. This allows you to create what's basically a little piece of memory, or a memory cell, and when you apply a redstone signal here with a button press, it will turn off this output and turn on this output. Subsequent button presses do nothing. When you press this inputs button, it will turn off this output and turn on this one. Subsequent button presses do nothing. Let's rebuild this with Super Circuit Maker. So just like we had over here, we're going to have 2 inputs and 2 outputs. Let's go ahead and configure it. So all we need here is an input and an output. We're going to shift right click these to make them inputs and right click these to make them outputs. Then we want to run our wiring into the middle. And what we'll probably wind up here with is a torch and a torch. This one will read into here. And this one will read into here. And then we create our outputs. Great. When I press the button, it's going to turn this one off and turn this one on. Subsequent button presses do nothing. When I press this button, it will turn this one off and turn this one on. Subsequent button presses do nothing. Pretty awesome. So I just made a super cool little redstone circuit, and I'm going to want to use this a lot. Am I going to have to rebuild this every time? Nope. All I got to do is get myself a blueprint. Blueprints are super nice. Shift right click, and ta-da, we've got a blueprint. Very cool. Now all you've got to do is get yourself another one of these redstone circuits and right click it. Boom. You'll notice it used the items out of your inventory, and we've got a mirror of that circuit. Awesome. And you can rotate this thing, no problem. It should also be noted for those of you who are not super good at making your own circuits that there's some built-in blueprints that come with the mod. Simply place an empty blueprint in the crafting window and you can get a NOT blueprint, an AND blueprint, a NAND blueprint, all the way down the line. OR, NOR, XOR, T-latch, pulse, state cell, RS latch, sequencer, comparator, null cell, mock cell, etc. Some of those I don't even know what they are. But if we wanted to see what a OR gate looks like, for example, ta-da! OR gate. If blueprints allow you to copy and paste, then red prints allow you to cut and paste. Cut. Paste. Cool. Those of you who have used Redstone mods in the past may be familiar with the concept of colored cables and bundled cables. Those do exist in Super Circuit Maker. All you need for them to work is a paintbrush and a palette. Cool. Get these 2 items and combine them in a crafting table. Ta-da! Palette and brush. Sweet. You can hold this in your offhand if you want. All you have to do is hold the Alt key, which is the default key binding, and you can choose your color. And now, let's say that we choose brown. When we place dust on the board, it will be colored brown. We can right-click to set the color, or if we hold the palette in our offhand, when we place it, it will automatically be brown. Cool. Coloring it brown. Brown from the offhand. So how do these bundled cables work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. When you place 2 colors down, by default, they're not going to connect to each other, and they will have separate connections. So for example, we can connect this line up here to be the input, and we will make over here be the output, and we'll make this brown line output to this side, and this side, why not? And input from this side. Cool. Now when we get a lever, you'll notice how this works. Now you could do this with regular old coloring and just use the screwdriver to block the colors from connecting. The real power comes in here when you're using tiny bundled wire, which just needs a little bit of string and wool. Bundled cable can transmit all colors of the cabling, like so. All we need to do is something like this. Cool. Now, when we activate this lever, that blue signal is going through and coming out the blue side. And when we activate the brown signal is coming through the bundled cable and going out to the brown sides. Super awesome. Like I said, anybody who's used bundled cabling in Minecraft modding before should be pretty familiar with this concept, but there are 16 different colors that you can apply. So for example, if we wanted to use magenta, that shouldn't be a problem. And we can output to this side, let's say. Pretty neat. Super Circuit Maker comes with some built-in commands that make it easy to import and export your circuits. So let's take the one that we just made over here and say that it's super cool and I want all of you to be able to have it. Shift right click to make your blueprint and then type SCM export. What that's going to do is upload to the internet at GitHub a little string. If you guys took that HTTPS command and copied and pasted it into your world, and then let's say that we copied it to my clipboard, and then you got yourself a new blank blueprint, you could do SCM import and then paste in that whole long string. Boom. It's going to load up the blueprint directly on your Super Circuit Maker blueprint. Now we can go ahead and paste this in the world. Awesome. Next, let's talk about the squeegee. If you want to completely clear out a circuit and you don't feel like left clicking a million times, shift right click and it's all gone. Awesome. You could also, of course, do that with the red print and then just throw it in the trash can, but this is a much more eco-friendly way to do it. You get all the items back, and then, of course, you can place it back down if you want, or shift right click to get all your items again. Awesome. The multimeter is also a nice tool. It lets you read the redstone signals that are going through your wires. So, for example, if I right-clicked this guy and we right-clicked on the blue wire, you'd see the power level is 255. We'll talk about in episode 2 the analog system and how it relates. That's going to be a more complex topic, which we'll cover in episode 2. You can also, by the way, right-click on bundled wire and see the on-offedness of all the different stuff. Awesome. So those are all the different colors. Also, you can right-click on the circuit as a whole to get the circuit's complexity level. Again, that's going to be covered in part 2. And with that, guys, we're going to wrap up part 1 of this mod spotlight. We're going to come back in part 2, and we're going to talk about some of the components we haven't looked at yet, like redstone impregnated sticks, bundled sticks, tiny plates, non-conductive tiny plates, and these guys. These sticks here allow you to build 3-dimensional circuits, which are super cool. And the multiplier, subtractor, adder, and divider all relate to the analog system. We also need to look at the inventory scanner, which we haven't looked at yet. Spoiler alert, it's kind of like a comparator. Cool. So for now, Darryl20 signing off. Hope you guys enjoyed checking out Super Circuit Maker. We will come back next episode to cover some of the more complex topics that can make for some really powerful circuits. All right, guys, take it easy.